Thank you very much. And Dr. Yost, I'm going to read you some testimony from the past. Dr. Haskell went in with forceps and grabbed the baby's legs and pulled them down into the birth canal. Then he delivered the baby's body and the arms, everything but the head. The doctor kept the head right inside the uterus. The baby's little fingers were clasping and unclasping, and his little feet were kicking. Then the doctor struck the scissors into the back of his head, and the baby's arms jerked out like the startle reaction, like a flinch, like a baby does when he thinks he's going to fall. The doctor opened up the scissors and stuck a high-powered suction tube into the opening and sucked the baby's brains out. Now the baby went completely limp. He cut the umbilical cord and delivered the placenta. He threw the baby into a pan along with placenta and the instruments he had just used. You recall that testimony being in a prior case? And if you don't, that's okay. Yes or no?
Roughly speaking, yes.
Yes, ma'am. And at the time, that was partial birth abortion, and at the time, Roger Evans, Planned Parenthood's Senior Director for Public Policy Litigation, says, there is no substance to the opponent's arguments. That is ideological poppycock, totally unsupported by the medicine. Evans says, the judges who have heard the testimony on the subject have consistently concluded it is a safer method of abortion for many women and that it is a medically necessary method of abortion for women in some circumstances. That's a quote from CQ researcher back in 2006. And the quote I gave you earlier actually came from the Gonzalez versus Carhart case in the majority opinion where they were talking about partial birth abortion and how bad it was. Now, earlier we heard testimony from Ms. Waxman that, you know, if somebody was found guilty of violating partial birth abortion, that, you know, they would be convicted and that would be a different story. You made the point earlier that you were not making a legalistic case, you were making a moralistic case in answering questions from Mr. Kennedy, and I think that's instructive because just like the O.J. Simpson case, you may not have the evidence to put somebody in jail because that's a beyond a reasonable doubt standard, but you might have the evidence to take their money away from them, which is exactly what happened in the O.J. Simpson case. And isn't that what these bills are about, is to say that if you do something wrong, even if we don't have proof beyond a reasonable doubt, you should lose some of the money that you might get otherwise. Isn't that what these bills are really about, Dr. Yost?
Yes, sir, and I'm very glad that you read from Gonzalez v. Carhart because it's, you know, the ban on partial birth abortion was a very hotly contested issue in our country, and the Supreme Court was very clear in upholding its legality. And I didn't have a whole lot of time to elaborate on Dr. Deborah Nucatola's scoffing at the partial birth abortion law, but she after she made the quote about the fact that she thought this was basically just kind of a guideline for her behavior, she went on to say that she felt that intent came into play, in that if she didn't intend to perform a partial birth abortion, then it didn't count. But in actual fact, to switch back to talking about the law, aside from common decency, the law is very clear that intent doesn't let you off the hook from performing a partial birth abortion.
And there should be punishments, not only the criminal punishments, but punishments to those providers who allow people to do these things by taking away their monetary sources. I mean, if somebody determines that they're charging excessively or something else, they have the right to take away their reimbursement. Shouldn't that be the same case if there's good reason to believe that they in fact have violated the law, whether with a baby that's born alive or by doing a partial birth abortion in order to get more organs to harvest from our babies? And I don't know this, so I want to track this down. I tried looking it up and I couldn't find it. Ms. Waxman, were you in favor of partial birth abortion? Did you argue against either publicly or as a part of your law class against partial birth or for partial birth?
I was not part of that debate.
You were not part of that debate at all? Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you. I wanted to have that out there. These are very serious issues, and it's not a matter of determining guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. It's trying to decide whether or not somebody's doing it the way the law intends it to be done or not to be done, and whether or not taxpayer dollars should be used to reimburse those people for doing those acts. And I appreciate both you, Mr. Maddox, and you, Dr. Yost, for being here, and also you, Ms. Waxman, because in this country we always have the opposing side, and that's the way it ought to be. Thank you very much, and I yield back.
Chair, thanks, gentlemen. Now I recognize the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Bilirakis.